Oh my gosh, it worked. Hi guys, I'm so sorry about that. I don't know what was happening, but for some reason I could not get my phone to connect. So now I'm here and I hope you can join me and sit back for about half an hour or so. I have a couple of fun videos to share with you. Oh, I was worried that wasn't going to work. How was your weekend? Did you have a good weekend? Are you having a great Monday? It's kind of weird here because my son, and we're in Florida down here, so my son's been going back to in-person school. He's been in person all year long. It's been fairly safe. They follow all of the COVID restrictions and everything. But today we woke up and had text messages and phone calls saying that there was some threat to his school. So he's actually home with me today. And of course he's loving it. He's 9 and he doesn't want to be at school, and we don't get snow days since we moved from Maryland down to Florida. We never get snow days. He gets to take time off usually for hurricanes sometimes if the weather's bad enough, but being in Central Florida, we're usually pretty safe, and he's just, you know, home because the schools are helping out for the inflow from other schools or something. But so he's home with me today and he's happy, and I'm hoping that they resolve the threat and he can go back to school tomorrow, no problem. But pretty scary stuff, and I don't know what the deal is, but hopefully they'll figure it out. They're pretty good about being safe and cautious and everything. So, okay, well, enough about that. I hope you all had a great weekend. I hope as you join me that you'll say hi and let me know where you're coming from. Maybe let me know what fun thing you did over the weekend or what you have going on this week, what you're looking forward to. I am going to kind of jump into this demonstration. I did a video on Friday. I usually try to go live on my YouTube channel on Fridays, or not live, excuse me. I try to post a video on Fridays on my YouTube channel. And this week I posted 2 different ways to use background stamps. I love background stamps, but I feel like they can be a little intimidating. So I kind of went online, did some research, and found a couple different ways to use the dry brush background stamp and the wild roses background stamp. So if you haven't checked that out, be sure to head over to my YouTube channel, or you could even go on my blog and you can see it there. Hi Jane, welcome. I'm a little bit late, but thank you for joining me. So I was just explaining that I have some background cards that I did with background stamps, and I did a couple techniques. So feel free to check on my YouTube channel and my blog if you missed that. I posted it on Friday. Hi Sue, welcome. Hi. I'm so excited to see everyone today. I'm a little bit late. I was having problems for some reason. I couldn't connect this morning on my phone. It was working fine on my iPad, and lo and behold, all you have to do is turn it off, turn it back on. That's the basics fix to it. So I'm here now. But okay, so we are going to, following my background stamp cards that I did on Friday. Let me grab those actually so you can see. I'm going to try to show you real quick. They're so pretty. Okay, so I did this dry brush background with sponge brayers using 3 different cards. And then I found a cool technique from Jennifer McGuire and made this card with the new Wild Roses background stamp. You can change up the colors and do whatever you want. It's really cool. So be sure to check out that video on my YouTube channel if you haven't seen it yet. So, all right, so I'm going to flip you around and we're going to go ahead and get going in the card demonstration portion here. And I'll kind of show you what we're working on. So these are the gorgeous cards that we're going to create using this buffalo check background stamp. I love this background stamp. You would think, oh, it's perfect for Christmas, which of course it is, but it's also perfect for spring. So we're going to work on these 2 cards. I'm going to show you how to do this partial stamping to get, this is actually all one basic white piece of paper right here, and I just mask it and we're going to stamp that. And then this one we make our own plaid by using a marker and kind of drawing lines over it on top. So let's go ahead, we're going to do this one first. So we have our buffalo check background stamp. This is on page, let's see, I wrote it down, page 138 of your annual catalog. There are like 6 different background stamps, and this is one of them. This one I love for Christmas time, but you don't need to use it just for Christmas. So it is a cling rubber stamp, so it's got the foam on the back and then the rubber on the top. So you can use your stamparatus to stamp with this, but I'm going to show you an even easier way, I think, than using your stamparatus. So just lay it down flat so that the red rubber is facing upward. And then we're going to use Blushing Bride, and we're going to open our stamp pads here. And I'm just going to ink it all over. Ink it really, really good. Whoops. Trying to keep it in one place. It wants to stick to my ink pad for some reason. Okay, so I've got it fairly well inked here. So I'm gonna take, I have a piece of 4 by 5 1/4 basic white, and I'm just gonna lay it flat down and try to make sure it's even and not crooked when you lay it down. And then I'm just taking a piece of scrap, like printer paper, and you're gonna lay it over the top, and you're just gonna rub all over the back of that paper to try to get the ink to adhere to your stamp, okay? All right, should be good. So carefully, see, it's on our paper, on our scrap paper. So I'm just gonna grab the corner, lift straight up. Ta-da! Magic. And that, I feel like, is the easiest way to ink up your background stamps. So now I'm going to bring in a ruler. My mother, I love her to death, but she is very precise and particular about how we do things in class. She always wants to measure everything. I am here to tell you this is not for measuring. This ruler is just to try to get a straight line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up my ruler where these lighter lines are, about in the center. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'm using the dark Highland Heather Stampin' Right marker, and I'm going to use the bullet tip here. And we're just going to put it right in the center. And what I like to do when I use a ruler is I like to use these little lines and kind of line them like a big line and line it up on the edge of the paper to make sure it's straight. And then we're just going to make lines, and we're going to move it down. We're not measuring anything. We're just using it as a straight edge here. I'm going to do it all the way down. And you want to move fairly swiftly when you're making your lines. You don't want the marker to hover on the paper, because then it might make a big ink splotch, and we don't want that. We want nice, clean, smooth lines. Okay, and then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. We're using those lighter columns and making our lines that way. Now you don't have to do it right in the middle. You could just do it like over to the side a little bit, which is what I'm going to do on this side. And actually starting off the paper is a good idea too, so you won't have that dot at the end of your paper from the ink. Now you could, you could just leave this without making the plaid lines, but I thought it was kind of a nice extra dimension to the background. See, we've got a nice spring plaid background there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a little stamping. We're going to stamp these tulips from the Timeless Tulip stamp set, and then we're going to stamp the sentiment and punch out everything. So let's go ahead and do that. Put this off to the side here, and I have the Timeless Tulips. You can still get this bundle. It comes with a punch that stamps out the tulips, and we're going to use this. I've actually seen it used as a petal and a leaf, but we're going to use this as the leaf today. We're just going to punch those out. So that bundle is on page 21 of your annual catalog. So, all right, let's go ahead and get our tulip out. Mine are well loved, as you can see. Lots of pink and purple dye left on there from the ink pads, but that's okay. All right, so I'm just going to get my stamping block, and then we're going to use Highland Heather, and I'm going to get some scrap Whisper White out, or Basic White. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm ever going to get used to calling it Basic White. For those of you that may not know, the factory that produced Whisper White had to close due to COVID. So now we have a different white called Basic White, kind of like Basic Black, but I don't know. I just have a hard time. I always want to call it Whisper White. It's just an old habit. So, all right. Well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get, maybe I can turn it upside down and get a third tulip out of there. Let's try it. Might be a little off. All right. So now I'm going to punch. I just evenly inked up my stamp, and then I like to, when I punch anything, I like to punch it upside down so that I can line it up in my punch and make sure I punch it out evenly. There we go. And then obviously when you're punching, you have to be aware of where the opening is for the little leaf so that you don't accidentally punch. If you're punching a bunch of images all at once, you don't want to accidentally punch out a leaf on top of an image that you're going to punch out later. So you got to kind of plan ahead there. Okay. And then I might have to, well, this might work. This is going to be a little close here. We'll make it work. Make it work moment. What was that show, Project Runway with Tim Gunn? Make it work, everyone. Oh, I think that worked out just perfectly. I just barely got that little bit right there. Oh, but it worked. That's all that matters. All right, so we'll close our ink up. And then I have some, let's see, I'm just going to take a little scrap out for our sentiment too. And the sentiment is also from the Timeless Tulips, that happy Easter, happy spring, happy, happy everything. So I'm going to take another block, and I'm just going to stamp this. Like I said, this is just a scrap piece of paper. We're just going to stamp it again in the Highland Heather. I just like these colors together. I thought they were really springy and feminine and just really fun. So I'm just going to stamp that. Perfect. And we'll close that up. All right, so now I have a piece of Blushing Bride. I just took, we're going to use Blushing Bride card bases for both cards. So I took a 8.5 by 11 inch piece, and I cut it down the middle so that it's 5.5 by 8.5. And then we'll fold that in half, and then we will put our base down using our Stampin' Seal. So Stampin' Seal, you just roll it to the front here, and then you'll be able to feel like the tackiness at the end. And all you have to do, oh my gosh, use even pressure and then pull straight up. Even pressure, pull straight up. Don't go back and forth. Some people are tempted to do that, but with these you can't. If you move it forward, you're just gonna tangle up that tape that's in there. And then I like to do a diagonal in the middle. All right, so let's see, make sure our card opening, I've definitely glued down cards upside down before. So I always double check my openings to make sure that I don't do that. Okay, so we've got our 3 tulips here. We've got our sentiment, and then for the background here, I used a stitch circle in the Basic White from the stitch shape dies. So if you have these, it's the second largest circle. So I'm going to bring in my embossing machine here, and we're going to die cut that out real quick. Oh, I probably could have gotten the mini one out, but I'm just so used to using the big one. So we're just going to take a piece of basic white, put the stitch circle over, and run it through. Now, if you don't have the new Stamp and Emboss machine, I want to just show you something real quick with them in case you didn't know. But so these plates that come, all the plates come with the machine. Right now, the magnetic cutting plate still is having issues, or they still have quality issues with it. So that's not available while they're trying to fix it. But all of the other plates, it comes with the cutting plates and like a little shim for dies and things like that. But on these plates, they're all numbered, and then the different plates have the recipes or the sandwiches so that you know exactly what plates you need to cut for which tools. So that's really great. And then the numbers are all at the top up there. So I'm hoping that they'll fix whatever is wrong with the magnetic plates soon. As soon as I get any information, I'll be sure to let everybody know, because I know I personally, that's all I use is the magnetic cutting plate when I'm die cutting, because I love that it just keeps everything in place. So I try to use that as much as possible. All right, so now we're gonna I've gotta get our leaves. So I just used a piece of Granny Apple Green, and I'm gonna cut out, or punch out rather, we're gonna punch out 2 leaves. I love punches. They're just so quicker and easier to use, I feel like, than die cutting. You don't want to die cut a bunch of stuff, especially if you're trying to make a bunch of gorgeous cards to send out to somebody for spring or Easter. Okay, so then we are going to trim our little sentiment here. I'm going to leave a little bit of extra space on the left-hand side just because we're going to tuck that under. Oops, you can't even see what I'm cutting. We're going to tuck this under the little circle, the stitch circle. So we're just going to kind of trim the white there. Oh, and mine is crooked, of course, so I'm going to get my scissors out. Oh, goodness. I didn't didn't stamp very straight, but that's okay. We'll fix it with our snips here. I'm just gonna trim, and it's gonna kind of get covered up too by the little border we're gonna make with the ribbon. So I have the, what is this? Purple Posy. It's like a linen ribbon with purple posy scalloped edges. It's gorgeous. So we're just gonna cut a little piece here, kind of eyeball it to about here. And then all I'm doing is I'm just cutting down this middle where the linen is, that brownish color here. Just cutting this in half. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the back of our sentiment. I'm gonna grab my silicone mat. I like to use this whenever I have any fine gluing or anything I have to do, so I'm not gonna get it all over my work surface, because I want to get this seal right up along the edges of this sentiment. And then we're gonna take our ribbon edge here, and we're just gonna line it up on the top and the bottom. Let's see, it'd probably be easier to do it this way so you can see. So you want that edge right along that purple scalloped edge right there. Let's see, I'll bring it up to the camera so you can see it. Oh, let's see, and see it's stuck. There we go. But see, I put it right along that purple edge there. So we're going to do the same thing with the bottom. And this silicone, it just keeps whatever your sticky work surface, it keeps it from sticking to like paper or whatever. That silicone, it'll come right off of it, which is great. So I'm just pushing it, making sure it's right along that purple border there. Okay, and I don't know what this is up here. Let's use our little eraser and see if we can get that off. No, it looks like, oh, you know what that is? I think I have ink on my silicone mat and that transferred to my sentiment. Shoot. Oh well, that's okay. Now this is Stampin' Up! Used to sell these. This is like an adhesive remover. If you don't have one, you can get one from like Michael's or Joann's, or I think Amazon even has them for like a couple bucks. But these are great because anytime you have glue or any kind of Stampin' Seal or anything like that, sometimes I've even been able to get like pencil marks up with it. All you have to do is you just rub it across your surface and it picks up any adhesive that you may have. And then you'll kind of notice the corner gets a little gummy, and all you do is you just pick that off to like clean it and get the excess off, and then you just start over. No big deal. Okay, so now we are going to trim the ribbon edges here. Perfect. All right. So now, let's see here. So now we're going to take our sentiment is going to go right here, right on the edge, and I'm just lining it up with the edge of that pattern that we made, and then we're going to end up putting our tulips right there. So I can go ahead and adhere my sentiment down. I'm just going to use Stampin' Seal. You can use liquid glue if you feel more comfortable with that. I know not everybody likes the Stampin' Seal, but whatever works for you, that's fine. And just adhere that down. And now for our little circle, we are going to put our tulips on here different ways, like that. Okay, so let's go ahead, and for me, I like to use a little bit of the seal on, I'm just going to use it on the bottom here. And I like to put it on the card so I can make sure that the flowers stay above the edges of the card so that when I go to mail it, it'll actually fit in my envelope like it's supposed to. So, right here. So two kind of poking out, and then we'll have one centered above it. Actually, we're gonna put the bottom of that one a little bit lower just to give it something different. All right, so now these leaves that we punched out are gonna go kind of over the bottom of that center tulip. So we'll go ahead and put that down here. And then the other one, just a little bit of seal at the bottom. There we go. And then I am going to take some of this linen thread here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie a double bow. So what I like to do is just kind of get like a big enough piece that you're going to cut to make a bow, and then I cut the middle, so I have two long strands of ribbon. So I'm just going to make a bow, make a loop, go around it, make another loop, and then you just kind of play with the ends. Sometimes I like to leave them long because after it's been sitting on that little tube, it gets kind of these curly ends, and I think that's really fun and pretty. But you don't want them too long, so just kind of mess with those a little bit. All right, and then I'm just gonna take a glue dot, I have this glue dot holder that I got at Michael's, and I love this thing. I used to go to a class up in Maryland when we lived up there. The lady at the time, she was a demonstrator at the time, Debbie, and she did fantastic card classes. I just fell in love with it. We had such a good time. It was so social, and she actually had that little glue dot holder, and I just thought it was so cool. It's like having a tape holder, but for glue dots. So I got mine at Michael's. I think you can still get them there, but all right, so I'm just putting my little bow at the bottom where my leaves connect here, and then I'm going to trim the ends just a little bit. There we go. And now all we have to do is I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back here and pop it up, and then our first card will be done. And then we can move on to the second one, and I'll show you the little trick for using for stamping part of the background to get kind of a different look with your card. Oh, actually, we have some embellishments we have to put on here. So I actually have some pastel pearls. These are currently on not orderable status, but I looked this morning before I got online, and you will be able to get them. They're expected to be in sometime the week of March 15th, which is next week. So if you're trying to get your hands on those, just kind of keep an eye on the website, and you should be able to order them sometime next week. They should be back in stock. So for our card here, we are going to use, it comes in 4, like a darker purple. I think this is like Seaside Spray, the light blue, Highland Heather, I think this is Gorgeous Grape, and this is Blushing Bride. So we're using these top 2 pearls today because they match our card. So what I'm going to do is I have a take your pick tool. I love this little putty end because all you have to do is, it's like a sticky putty, and then you just push on your little embellishment there and you can grab it. And we're just going to add a little Highland Heather one down here, and one more down here next to our flowers, and then we're going to get a Blushing Bride pearl off of here. I'm going to try to, there we go, and I'm going to put it up towards the top, and I'm going to get one more, and you just push to get it to stick to that putty. Now mine is kind of drying out, so I'm going to tear it off, and then all you have to do is you just squeeze a little bit and then kind of twist it back so it doesn't keep squeezing out more than you actually need. Okay, so we're going to use that. All right, and we'll put one more down here. All right, and there is our first card. How cute is that? Don't you just love it? Okay, so now I'm going to show you one more card. I know initially I said when I announced this, like, oh, I have a card to show. Well, I have 2. I couldn't stop playing with this. I thought this was so much fun. So, all right, so this is the first one, right? We got the little plaid background, super fun. So now for my second card, I'm going to show you how to make this card. So we are going to use some painter's tape to kind of mask off the background here and just stamp this bottom part. So let me show you how to do that real